there is a way possibly to solve this.
Okay.
The Quran has two periods in it, time-wise. It's not the way it's set up. But there are verses which were revealed in Mecca and verses revealed in Medina, according to Muslim tradition. The verses revealed in Mecca are the early verses, and those were at a time when Muhammad was weak and afraid that he could be wiped out. And it's very, let's all get along together, kumbaya if you wish. Mm-hmm. We have our religion, it says in the Quran, and you have your religion. When he gets to Mecca, he creates a state. It's the only religion. Christianity started not as a state, and Judaism didn't start as a state. Islam basically starts as a state. It's formed in Medina. And those verses already are not let's all get along together. They're called the later verses in the Quran. And what this, according to Sharia, that is the sources that come later, they say that the later verses abrogate the earlier verses, meaning that the let's all get along verses don't matter anymore, but it's that I rule, as again the great Professor Bernard Lewis, who's 100 years old now, says, I'm right, you're wrong, go to hell. And he said this overtly in lectures over and over again. And he's a nice, refined gentleman. Mm-hmm. Now, how then, now if you believe that the Quran is the eternal word of Allah, then there's complete contradictions here. Now, I know there are contradictions in other holy books as well. But their idea is the later verses abrogate the earlier verses. But the earlier verses are there. And there are a lot of Muslims who understand that Islam is in deep trouble. And that many are afraid that Islam is like a cancer patient. At the very end, when someone suffers from cancer, what you many times see is it appears there's an improvement. The improvement is the body giving everything it has to try to, and then it gives up. The question is Islam facing that? Is the Muslim more, and there are a lot of people who understand if they can't figure out a way, and again, they have those earlier verses, if they can get to them. Mm-hmm. Now, if you say this thing publicly, you face death because you can be called an apostate. An apostate in Islam is punishable by death. Apostasy is punishable by death. Mm-hmm. Now, how can we therefore help them, or how could they help them? And what I'm saying now, I don't advocate. But it is a way, and maybe the only way that Muslims will have either incentive or ability to reinterpret their sources. The Quran is the time period of when people knew Muhammad. The only way is if they're forced to. How could that happen? It could happen if Muslims suffer a catastrophic defeat, where they themselves say, I surrender, and not to Allah's will. And then it is for the Muslims to reinterpret their sources, and using the earlier Quranic sources within their tradition. Jews have done that. Christians have done that. Because we have needed to do that throughout history, or else we may not have survived. And that's the only way that I can see that happening, because then those forces within Islam, and believe me, they exist in larger numbers than we hear, because I have my own experience. They know that if they can't find the way to get along, they risk the entire Muslim world being destroyed, because they are angering the West. And shall we say, there at some point will be a different administration in Washington. And if they anger too much, God help them. Like they blow up all of New York, or they blow up Chicago. I mean, whatever. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Again, as I say, I'm not advocating this, but it would free up those Muslims who know they need to get along with us to reinterpret Islam, where this land rather this land where we are making this recording in Jerusalem, yes, it belongs to the Jews. And yes, Spain belongs to the Christians. And yes, Southeastern Europe belongs to the non-Muslim peoples that are there. And Europe doesn't have to be made Muslim. And yes, 1/7 of China, which is Xinjiang, Northwest Territories, which are Muslims, which the Muslims there believe was conquered by China, which is unacceptable from a Muslim point of view. And the Russians have the same exact problem of having conquered Muslim areas. These people will be able, if there is a new way of interpreting Islam, they may be able to get along. But I sadly see that the only way this could happen is if the Muslim world is devastated. I hate what I'm saying, right, but I understand it as
okay.
Sadly.
Well, that's how you hear. And so even though current Islamic jurisprudence would not possibly allow for such a radical reinterpretation, you believe that a catastrophe, specifically a military catastrophe, could force them to it?
Yes. The other thing is that the present president of Egypt, Sisi, he understands that this man has enormous guts. He says that these terrorists have hijacked our religion, Islam, and that we need, and he goes to Al-Azhar, which Westerners believe is the center of Sunni Islam in the world. It is one of many. There is no center of Sunni Islam, which is why if I need a fatwa I'm a Sunni, which is why you have ISIS can get a fatwa to do what they want, and some other Sunni will say no, you can't do it. Right. He went to Al-Azhar and told them we need to reinterpret and take back our religion so we can get along with peaceful with the rest of the world. Take back our religion. You could make an argument that what ISIS is doing is within classical normative Islam.
Sure.
Sisi understands what they're up against. The man is a genius. Let's hope that he and others like him succeed.